talking about a PRRS outbreak. This is Deerview Farms. It's a 6,000 head commercial sow farm, breed to wean, in Illinois. This farm is 30 kilometers from where I live. This farm is a commercial farm. There is not a lot special about this farm. It's not a research farm. It's not a breeding stock farm. It's a relatively older farm. It's 20 years old, built in 2005. This farm paid the tuition of air filtration. What I mean by that is it tried to filter in 2010. Very new at the time, very innovative, on the bleeding edge of innovation. And when I say it paid for the tuition, it didn't work very well. It was an existing facility. It wasn't designed to be filtered. We didn't really know how to filter farms at that point. It didn't work perfectly. And actually went out of filtration, stopped trying to filter in 2023. The facility itself is not a great design to filter, unfortunately. But we learned a lot from this farm. So that's why I say it paid the tuition, right? We applied learnings of filtering this farm to the next farm. And as you start to filter your sow farms, it will be the same journey, all right? It will be hard, but don't give up, because we're going to talk about how bad it is to be an unfiltered sow farm in 2026. This farm is stage 2 MLV. You will not see me put, this farm is negative, stable PRRS. Those words are really hard to understand, okay? Stage 2 MLV, and we're gonna have a quiz question to make sure everybody understands stage 2 MLV. Sven, go ahead and throw up the QR code for everybody. What correctly describes PRRS stage 2 MLV? Does that mean that the farm is MLV vaccinated and wild type stable? Does it mean the farm is MLV vaccinated and wild type negative, no wild type? Does it mean it is MLV vaccinated and we don't know? Stage 2 means we don't have enough diagnostics to really decide the wild type status. What do you think stage 2 MLV means? Sven's gonna give us about 30 seconds, and then he's gonna flip to the next slide, or flip to the results so we can see what everybody voted. All right. Oh, we got a ways to go. PRRS stable doesn't mean anything. PRRS stable means something different to everyone in this room, okay? Stage 2 MLV means that it's wild type negative. We don't have wild type at this farm, okay? We use MLV to create antibodies. But as of the time this story starts, this farm did not have a wild type virus. It had had outbreaks in the past, but we had gotten rid of those outbreaks. So the correct answer is right here. Breed to Wean Farm is MLV vaccinated and PRRS wild type negative. Sven, if you can put us back into the slide deck. All right, we're gonna start the story in week 50 of last year, so the middle of December 2025. And I'm gonna show you some stats from the farm, some metrics of the normal situation. 6,000 head farm, they breed about 300 animals every single week. We farrow about 280 of them. Our total born is embarrassing to be in a conference with a Danish producer, but 15.6 is pretty normal, maybe slightly below normal in the US. But we get a lot of pigs out of the 15.6. Our stillborns would be pretty average for the US, same for the mummies, but we wean 12.5 pigs per farrowing event. So a little over 31 PSY, which is above average in the US. It's not the best farm by any means, but it's solid. You can be a very effective farm at this level. Week 51, we start to see abortions. This is the daily number of abortions. So you can see we have one abort, that's normal. None, 2, none, 2. And then we have the 6 in a day. And the next day, 8. And you guys know where this story is going. So a veterinarian goes to the farm. This is a time where it's appropriate to bleed animals. We don't bleed a lot of sows anymore in the US. We use the aggregate sampling that Marius talked to us about, but this is a good time to bleed the sows. The aborted sows, that's what we want to investigate. We take our samples, we send them to Marcelo at Iowa State. He tells us that they are PCR positive, which is not a surprise, and he does sequencing, ORF5 sequencing. ORF5 is still the fastest and quickest way for us to get some information. So when Marcelo does his diagnostics, he gives me the genetic soup right here of our sequence. He also tells me right away the lineage, and this is a lineage 1 strain. Not a surprise. Most of the wild-type viruses in the US are lineage 1 right now. Marcelo and his team also instantly give us a percent homology to the available MLVs in the US, okay? And we can see a lineage 7 MLV is 85% the same. A lineage 5 MLV also is 85% the same. And for anybody who thinks the lineage 1 MLVs are going to save you, there's the lineage 1 MLV. It's 87% the same. So it's a lineage 1 virus. The lineage 5 is 85% the same as this strain. The lineage 1, if we think that's going to be much better cross protection, is 2% better. It's 87. Okay, so just because you're lineage 1 doesn't mean it's going to be close to your wild type strain. Let's do another quiz question. With our PRRS lineage system, which of these statements is true about the lineage system? Sven, if you could pull that up. Thank you very much, sir. So use your QR code and vote. Is our PRRS lineage, do we determine it by the whole genome sequencing? That would make sense, right? The lineage 1, is there less than 10% variation within the lineage 1 group? Do we think that's the case, where lineage 1 is going to have less than 10% when we compare all the lineage 1 strains to each other? I gave this answer away a little bit about PRRS viruses and their cross protection within lineage, but hopefully you've heard that message pretty strongly today, what we think about that, what we know about that, what the research shows us, or then none of the above. Are all of those statements false? So we'll give another few seconds here, let everybody get their vote in. What does the lineage tell us? How do we determine it? Excellent. Excellent. Very good. Very, very good. Daniel, you've been teaching these guys. Good job. None of that is true. The PRRS lineage is based off the ORF5, 6% of the genome, right? The other 94% is not considered in the lineage whatsoever. There's 14% variation within lineage 1 sequences, the last I checked, so tons of variation, and there's no evidence that PRRS viruses have better cross protection within lineage. Excellent, excellent job. We do a biosecurity investigation, and fortunately, this is one of the ones that's not a super hard investigation, okay? This farm has invested in video cameras at the critical control points for biosecurity. So the employee entry, the area where we load pigs out, the supply entry rooms, we have cameras that are recording every activity all the time. And someone watches those videos every single day. So when we have an outbreak, we need to figure out, when did the virus come in? Based on the abortions, that's not a mystery. We can narrow down when that virus came in the herd probably within 7 to 10 days. We can know exactly where we need to look at the cameras. So we investigate the cameras. In this case, we didn't see a big problem. That's not always the case when we investigate the biosecurity, but in this one, we didn't see anything obvious. The truck driver didn't come in the loadout, the workers did all the right things, and we also know that there's a neighboring farm a little over 4 kilometers to the north. So this is our poor deer view down here. This is a farm called North Fork that is a different production system, different owners. We knew this farm was positive with that strain. The veterinarian had shared that. We were aware that there was huge risk. This is why you can't be an unfiltered farm in 2026 in a pig-dense region. You can do everything right with the people, everything right with loading the pigs and the transport, and the viruses are going to blow into your farm. We do have a jukebox available. Actually, I think it was in the morning this afternoon's is the camera auditing. So if you want to learn some more on that, we can do that here in a few minutes. This is a bad outbreak. 6,000 sow farm. So at any point in time, probably about 4,800 animals are pregnant. 4,800 animals are pregnant. In 28 days, over 1,000 of them aborted. In 28 days, over 1,000 of them aborted. And of the 4,200 that are pregnant, there's probably 1,000 that are pregnant less than 28 days into gestation. So they don't abort, or at least we don't see it. Crazy, right? And on top of that, 350 sows died in 28 days. So this is a bad outbreak, okay? The farrowing house did not take the hit immediately. There's a lot of data on this slide, but just focus on where I'm going to point to the metrics. So the total born in week 51, this is the same week we have all those abortions starting. Total born is normal, live born is normal, stillborn's up just a little bit, but not a disaster. And the mummies are right at the normal number. Number of dead pigs in the farrowing house, piglets in the farrowing house is normal. 491, very normal number. 70 dead piglets a day for this herd, solid. That's a 12% pre-wean mortality. In the US, that's a very normal number. Week 52, so we're now 7 days, 10 days after the abortions have started. The only real change we have is the pre-wean mortality is starting to go up. Not a disaster yet, but it's starting to go up. And our stillborns are now about double target. But we've still got 13,400 born alive. The mummies are still normal. Week 1, so now we're 3 weeks into the outbreak. Now we're starting to see the farrowing house get hit. Stillborns are up 3 times over target. Mummies are up just a little bit, but the pre-wean mortality is what's really starting to get us. And in these things, I always look at the pre-wean mortality for the week compared to the born alive. And when those numbers flip, that's a bad outbreak, okay? And they're not flipped yet. We're still having more pigs born alive than we are pre-wean mortality, but when we get into week 3, that starts to change. Only 93 sows farrowed in week 3, because all the rest were dead or aborted. We had 1,000 pigs die, which isn't a huge number compared to where the farm was. It's like double, but we only had 735 pigs born alive. So this farm's not going to wean pigs for a while. When you have more pre-weaning mortality than you do born alive, that's easy math. You're not going to wean pigs out of this farm for a little while. Week 5, stillborns and mummies, they're starting to get better, okay? We're 6 weeks into the outbreak, but we have went through the worst of the worst. The abortions are done. The sow mortality is done. We don't have many sows farrowing. See, still only 95 sows that farrowed that week, because the heavy pregnant animals, the ones that are in late gestation, that's where your sow mortality and your abortions generally come from. So we don't have enough pigs being born, but the pre-wean mortality has settled down a little bit, and there are signs of life on the farm, okay? So we're 6, 7 weeks into this now. Daniel talked a little bit before about the impact to your baseline wean pig volume that we see in these PRRS breaks. And the next quiz question I've got for you is, how many weeks is reasonable for the farm to get back to the baseline wean pig volume, the total number of wean pigs per week? Not the wean pigs per sow, the total number of wean pigs. The sow farm's job is to create wean pigs. It's the only job of the sow farm. How many weeks is it reasonable that we might be able to get back to normal production? 10 weeks? Do you think we can get back in 10 weeks? 15 weeks? 20 weeks? 25 weeks? I think Daniel teased what the average number was a little bit before. What's reasonable? Or I should say, what's good? How many weeks before it's nearly impossible to get back to the right number of wean pigs? Very good, very good. 20 weeks. Because think about your breeding herd when you break with PRRS. There's 3 weeks worth of animals in the farrowing house, okay? You've got 16 and a half weeks worth of bred animals in gestation. And you've got 1 week worth of wean sows waiting. They were weaned last week. They're getting ready to be bred. You got 20 weeks worth of animals. all of them are going to get really sick at the same time. And some of them are going to have an abortion problem, some will have a stillborn problem, some will have a mummy problem, some will have a conception rate problem. All of them are going to have a problem. And you've got to cycle all the way through that herd. So when farms tell me we got better before 20 weeks, that's tough. Good for them, but it's really tough. If your farm doesn't get back to the right number of wean pigs in 20 weeks, it's not because your people aren't trying. It's not because you aren't using the best tools. It's the reality of the enemy that we face and how good it is, okay? So 20 weeks is about as reasonable as we can hope for. All right, Sven, we'll jump back into the slides now. Okay, so 5-step program, 5-step concept. We have to be disciplined at this point. It's very easy to be emotional. There's a lot of dead animals. There's a lot of lost pregnancies. It's very easy to be emotional, but we as the veterinarian have to be objective. We have to rationally think through what are our goals and what resources do we have to apply to them. Our first goal is build immunity in the sow herd. The sows are dying from interstitial pneumonia and co-infections with whatever else is in there, the PCV2, the mycoplasma, but the PRRS is causing interstitial pneumonia. The PRRS is wrecking the macrophages in the sows. And the sows are having a huge innate immune response, an inappropriate immune response, okay? So we have to try and build an appropriate immune response as soon as possible. So we're gonna mass vaccinate the sow herd immediately, and we're gonna repeat in 30 days. We're not gonna repeat in 30 days because of the booster value of the MLV. We're gonna repeat because there's a lot of sows on day one that are not good candidates for the vaccination. They're not able to mount an immune response in that moment. But if they're still there 30 days later, they have recovered. The sows infected with PRRS, they either die or they recover. That's the reality with infectious disease. You have two options. You recover or you die. So the sows that didn't have a good vaccination event because they were really sick in the first one, we're gonna hit them again. We're gonna hit all the sows, but we're gonna catch those sows 30 days later so that we are building immunity as fast as possible to try and help get through the abortions, the sow mortality, the stillborns, and ultimately get the sows healthy. Goal number one, get the sows healthy. The piglets will come next, but the sows have to get healthy first and foremost. The next thing we need to try and protect is the throughput. The sow farm exists to make wean pigs. We have to figure out how to make as many wean pigs as possible through this devastation. And we know the conception rate is gonna be bad. We know the conception rate is gonna be bad during this outbreak. So what is the cure for a bad conception rate? Breed more sows. All those aborted sows, all the gilts we have in the GDU, all hands on deck. Every animal that comes into heat, we have to breed them, okay? The conception rate will be bad, but that's why we have to breed extra animals. In this chart, the green line shows the number of breeds per week, and the black line is the target. And you can see, we had a dip. When the sows get sick, they're not gonna come into heat the first week or two. There's nothing you can do about that. They've gotta be in heat. But as soon as those aborted sows start to come into heat, the 1,000 sows that lost pregnancy, some of them are gonna die, but the ones that don't die, they're gonna recover. And when they recover, they're going to come back into heat. So breed them up. I'm not saying the conception rate will be great. I'm saying we have to breed 400 a week instead of 300 a week to farrow the right number. And the number we farrow is the only important number at this point. So use those open sows, the preg check negatives, the aborts, the returns. You're gonna have a lot of them. Use them up, breed them, breed them, breed them. Also, in maximizing our throughput, we need to look at those gilts and how they fit the hole we have in our inventory. Remember the weeks where I was showing you where we only farrowed 90, 80. That means in 3 weeks, we're only gonna wean 80 or 90 sows. We need those wean sows to hit the breed target. We need 200 gilts to hit the normal breed target in those weeks. We have to get gilts into the farm as fast as possible before we close it. And the farm doesn't need 20% extra gilts every week. The farm needs 80% extra gilts early on, then 60% extra gilts, then 40% extra gilts, then 20% extra gilts. Look at your breeding groups week by week. You need different volumes of gilts going forward. You have to calculate that, and you have to get them into the farm to fill those holes in your breeding groups. Because if we don't fill them, they'll come back around. If we end up with another week of 110 farrows 20 weeks from now, we're going to have the same problem with hitting breed target. We need as many wean sows as we can get. So think about your inventory and get gilts in to fill in your gaps. I'm not saying run the farm open forever, but we need to get gilts in right away before we close it so that we have enough gilts to have the inventory back to the 6,000 level before we close the farm. All right, the next thing that we have to do is try to improve the wean pig quality. We're only having 100 farrows a week, which means we have a lot of farrowing crate space. A lot of farrowing crate space. Use it, okay? Your wean pigs are not going to be great right now. This farm runs around 24, 25 days wean age normally. We can take those pigs up to a heavier age. We can take those pigs to 30 days of age. No problem right now. We have plenty of space to do it. What few wean pigs we're going to make, we can make them as big and as healthy as we possibly can. We should vaccinate those pigs. And think about your wean age. A pig that's 30 to 35 days old in the farrowing house, that's probably too old to vaccinate at weaning in this situation. We probably still need to get those pigs vaccinated with PRRS MLV at a younger age, 3 weeks of age, and probably even starting at processing, knowing what we know about the impact of 2 doses of MLV in the outbreak situation. But don't wait for the MLV until the weaning date if you're going to have the weaning age go up quite a bit. All right, another quiz question here. What percent homology do we need to have to get cross protection from the MLV? I showed you the diagnostic report from Marcelo before. I showed you that we've got lineage 5, we got lineage 7, we got lineage 1 options. What's the percent homology that we need in order to have cross protection in this outbreak situation? 80%, 85%, 90%. What's the number? What's the research tell us? Awesome. I can be done early. You guys are doing good with the quiz questions. All right, it's a trick question. There's not a percent homology that is able to predict cross protection. You know what predicts cross protection? Controlled research. This is a very common virus. A very common virus. There will be research studies done with some MLVs against this specific strain. This doesn't need to be a mystery. I can look at controlled research of pigs that have been challenged with this strain and different MLVs that have been used. And I can find evidence of MLVs that will protect against this strain. And if I can't find it against this strain, I can look at a lot of research for MLVs that have been done against a lot of strains, and I can choose the MLV that has the most research against the most strains over years and over many, many, many geographies. That's the right way to make your MLV decision. All right, another quiz question. Will a lineage 1 derived vaccine save the day in this situation? Can I get a lineage 1 vaccine that is going to protect better than my other available MLVs? What do you think? I've got lineage 1 options. I know exactly how they compare from my diagnostic report from Marcelo. So what do you think? Yes or no? It's a big question. The boss is going to want to know, what are we going to vaccinate with? How are we going to do this? How are we going to recover this farm? How are we going to get this farm healthy again? How are we going to build that immunity I talked about? Very good. There's no evidence that using a lineage 1 vaccine is going to protect us any better, okay? And for many situations, there's no evidence that a lineage 1 vaccine will protect us against the lineage 1 strain because the lineage 1 MLVs haven't done a lot of research yet. So look for the MLV strain which has done research to show cross protection against your current outbreak strain or the most common strains in your industry, the most common strains in your geography, the most common strains in your system. That's the right way to make your decision. And we can look on this slide just to reinforce this. You can see our diagnostic report here, our lineage 1 virus. The exact variant is lineage 1C 532. It's the worst, in my opinion, it's the worst one we have in the United States right now. You can see none of my vaccine options are within 10% of that virus. Everybody would look at this and call it heterologous. Every one of these. None of my MLV strains are homologous. The options I have off the shelf, they are all heterologous. I've got a lineage 1 option. It's 87% the same. It's really hard to convince me that even if the homology did matter, which we know that it's not able to predict cross protection, that it would be better than an 85% virus. Okay, it's a sobering story, but it's the reality we live with. The message I want to leave you with is use the 5-step process. Have discipline in how you put together your plan. It's simple, but it's hard to do because it's emotional and the owner's frustrated and they want to try this and they want to try that. And we should act with a sense of urgency, but we should use good science to make our decisions. We should use a disciplined planning process to explain to everybody what's our goal, what are our constraints, how are we going to get there, and how are we going to monitor the outcomes to know that we're on track for success. With that, I think that's my last slide, and Oliver, turn it back over to you.